Hi, my name is Patricia, and I was the voice of Peppermint Patty. My co-host is Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hello, everyone.
Now, today's show is going to be a little bit different than our past shows. We will be talking about narcissism, which is we're going to take a deep dive into narcissism and, okay, I'm lying. I'm just lying here. It's not going to be a deep dive. Our guest today is the one and only Nellie Olsen, Alison Arngrim. And yes, we're going to talk about narcissism, but I don't think it's going to be some deep, heavy.
I don't know, man. You start talking about Nellie Olsen, the narcissism. It is a topic that comes up, especially Mrs. Olsen. Mrs. Olsen, was that the narcissistic mother, like from hell? What was that?
Yes.
People now, okay, when the show was always just like, oh, she's a bitch. Now people are like going, her mother, I'm sorry, that woman was a full-on narcissist, a narcissistically disturbed mother. And of course her poor daughter was acting. What would she do? Wonder she did as well as she did, the poor thing. And so now people get it and they go, what did with that mother? What did you expect? So I get sympathy now.
Well, it's funny because I had that thought process. When I reached out to you about doing the show, I was like, oh yeah, she's a classic narcissist. And then the more I thought about it, it was like, she was raised to be that way. Like she really didn't have a choice as a child. And what changed was Percival coming into the picture, and she became this like really wonderful, caring person who became friends. Can you tell I've watched the show once or twice?
A
little bit. So like, was she really a narcissist, or just
Nellie had certain emotions? Like, okay, well, and notice that when Nellie showed real emotion and actually was behaving in a non-narcissistic manner and falling in love with you, her mother went really nuts, like went into a rage. But the pig farmer, she was doing a really normal thing. She was 15. She met a cute boy. He wasn't rich. He wasn't important. He didn't necessarily. He wasn't after her money. She wouldn't have.
He was cute though.
Kind of cute. He was a cute, dopey blonde boy, and he was nice. And he was nice to her, and was a pleasant, teenage, attractive boy. And she fell for him, and we're total. That's like a normal thing to do. That'd be like a Laura thing to do. He was age appropriate. Okay, the actor wasn't age appropriate. He's like 27. I was like, oh my god. But he was playing, but he was the same. And so he was like an age appropriate, nice, goofy, blonde boy who was kind to her, and she fell for. And her mother went insane. That should be happening, that she should be having a normal emotional reaction, because she's like saying, yeah, my God, he's a pig farmer, I don't want to be the Minnesota pig queen. And all she's thinking about is marriage is transactional, that you marry for money or position or whatever. And her, and she always says that Nell's married her because she had the horses in the store, and it's about something, and she's raised her this way. She can't have her marrying a normal dude, a farmer. Now, of course, actually, if you're out in Minnesota and God forbid Missouri, I mean, pigs are big money. And his dad, they weren't really doing very badly. And Miss Beadle married his dad because he was actually totally a catch. He wasn't broke; he was fine. But if you were like trying to go for like royalty here, it was a problem. And her mother really had a problem. And a lot of other mothers would have gone, well, he's a nice, well brought up boy. Okay, he needs shoes, but his dad has his own business. He's not poor, really. And he's just kind of a doofus because he's 15. But he seems like good potential, and from a decent family. They would have gone, yes, you should date him. Please, we'll have a lunch with his dad and talk about the shoe thing. But generally, not Mrs. Olsen, because it was all transactional. And what can you get out of someone? And so he wouldn't do. And then even Percival, when she's like, what is happening? And then it's about the wedding. I have to have time to plan the wedding that is about me, about everyone coming to the wedding that I've thrown for my daughter, that I think. And what do you mean? I don't have time. And he's like, something simple outside. She's like, because for her, it's about her mother, the bride, throwing the wedding, and her friends seeing her through. And then when he says Jewish, she completely loses it. Because as we've established, Mrs. Olsen, how many different like groups of humanity we have that she hated? We had that she was racist, not fond of blind people, not fond of anyone with a disability. And Jews. There was when when Nellie and Willie were trying to say that nice man who made the caskets had horns on his head, under his hat. Yeah, so the anti-Semitism thing and the anti-black.
Did they pick that actor for that reason? Did they plan him to be Jewish and have it be that?
Which the coffin maker? Yeah, that was totally about the elderly Jewish man, the coffin maker, or Percival.
Percival.
Or which one?
Percival.
Oh yes, no, this was yeah. You want to talk about some narcissism? This episode was all about Michael Landon's childhood and his mom, who I think won some kind of like special first place blue ribbon prizes for narcissism.
Oh,
Michael out about this. Did you see the TV movie The Loneliest Runner about Michael's childhood, where he talked about wetting the bed and all the issues he had? Oh yeah. No. It's a true story. So Michael wrote a TV movie about it, where I guess that's why you remember it was the whole thing how he threw the discus and the javelin. He was really athletic, and it was that was because he started by having to run home from school to like beat the school bus there, because when he would wet the bed back in the day, they didn't realize it was a medical problem. His father had wet the bed, and nobody bothered to tell him that because it was a big secret. And his mother was such a biatch. She hung the bed sheets out the window so that everyone would see them to shame him. And so he would run from school to beat the bus home before his friends got there and got off the bus and could see, so he could get home and get the sheets out the window.
Oh my gosh.
So it's an actual story from his life. And his dad was Jewish. Michael Landon's real name was Eugene Maurice Orowitz. His father, Mr. Orowitz, publicist, was Jewish. His mother was not. He had a bar mitzvah when he was 13. He identified with his dad and he said, I want to be Jewish. I want to be Jewish. I'll bar mitzvah, I'll convert, whatever. Yeah, yes, the whole thing, if you're from an Orthodox point of view, if your mother is not Jewish, you're not Jewish, your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. But people convert. People say, I want to be Jewish. And they right. So he said, you want to be Jewish and have bar mitzvah, and they did. And the story is that his mother, like during the party, took him aside and said, I just want you to know, when you were a baby, I had you baptized. So this is all a joke. She was not a nice person. The parents fought constantly. They fought all the time, and quite often about religion, and were eventually divorced, and it was like ugly. And this is why he was very traumatized by this. And Michael had a lot of trauma, and that's why the show was so dramatic. He was working through stuff on that show. He knew people at home were watching Little House and working out their trauma and their pain through. And he was like, "Yeah, me too."
Yep.
And he literally went on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and said, "Yes, this is a new episode." So Nellie gets married and tells Johnny Carson, I based it on my parents. My father was a short Jewish man, and my mother was tall and blonde and very domineering. And I really wanted him to stand up to her. So this is like my fantasy fulfillment, that the short Jewish guy finally gets the tall blonde lady to shut the hell up and I'm like, great, I'm 18. He thinks I'm his mom.
Oh, shoot.
The hell am I doing that? I was 18 and I'm watching the thing. There's Johnny Carson going, there's Michael going, yes, it's about my mother. And I'm like, wait, that's me, maniac. So yes, apparently the whole Nellie Olsen thing is when I was about his mother. And so yes, no, that was his parents. It was blatantly. So yes, absolutely. It was all about Percival being Jewish. And then of course we love the Coens, his parents show up, but it was like epic. But Mrs. Olsen was anti-everybody. She was just like, I think she only liked her. I mean, that was it. There were no other humans that passed the test.
Wow.
It was just
she liked you.
She liked
and
me.
She liked Nancy.
Because we were extensions of her. And that's it. So she flips to Jewish, and Nels, who was like sane, goes, he's murdering our daughter because nobody else is going to. And so then she's like, but then, of course, when his parents show up, and she'd managed to go, well, okay, he's calling himself Percival Dalton. We didn't know he was Jewish till he told us. It'll be cool. And then his parents show up and start talking about the baby being Jewish, and they're really Jewish. They're saying, no, our name is Cohen, not Dalton. His name is Isaac, and he's really Jewish. And she flips out again.
Wow.
So,
oh, my gosh.
See, so I had way too much time to think about this. But yes, Mrs. Olsen, serious narcissist.
But don't you think that she was like that? Probably because she was raised by somebody that was like that. And so Nellie, even though, she was absolutely, it might not have been her fault, she kind of, that's what was passed down from the mom.
You don't hear much about Harriet's family.
Excuse me just a moment. I'm about to lose my computer. So you keep talking. I'll be back.
Right. Well, it's only, her family's only alluded to once or twice. They don't really talk about it. Didn't she have the rich sister show up once? And the rich sister, no, I don't want to adopt all 3 children. I only want to adopt the little girl.
Wow.
What's wrong with her? All of these
talking about trauma, splitting up families.
Really seriously screwed up people in this family. So something's wrong with her. The only time her family's alluded to was when she said, when she gives me the hotel so that someone will marry me. Remember, that was the whole point. And why Percival was even there. She built a freaking structure. She contracted and built a 2-story building with a kitchen and hotel in order for me to get a man. Who people don't go. It's like build a 2-story building. And that was the point of that. And so when she said at one point, just to get a man, that why your father married me, half interest in my father's store and the horses and blah, 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 blah. So her father had a store. She had the money, is the story. Nels had the ambition and the smarts, I guess, but that she had the money in the store, that it was her father. So did her father tell her, we'll offer any guy who marries you half interest in the store because no one will marry you because you're unlovable, and that's going to be our thing we're going to do to you? Is that why Harriet's crazy? Because she literally, I remember I watched it recently. It's the whole who's going to do the cooking thing, and it's hilarious. But it's really mean because Mrs. Olsen, and I'm like 17 years old. She's got a 17-year-old girl up against the wall in this kitchen who's saying, I don't want to cook and I don't want a hotel. What are you doing? And she says, it's time for you to get married. And no, you don't have a lot of people lined up. And your father married me because I started, and tells this 17-year-old girl that she is not pretty enough or nice enough or lovely. That no man will ever love her or marry her, that she's so awful and unlovable that she needs to build a 2-story building, an entire hotel with a restaurant, in order for this girl to stand a chance of finding a romantic partner. At 17, would you tell a 17-year-old girl, you're so awful?
I'm sitting here crying for Nellie Olsen.
That's so sad.
It's a really horrible thing to say to someone. So no wonder she was excited about Percival. He didn't say, yeah, I want to marry you so I can have this hotel. He was like, as pretty. And the thing was, when she goes, he said, I've obviously analyzed this a bit. She says, he said I was pretty. But it's not that he said she was pretty. He said, as pretty as you are, you don't need a restaurant to catch a man. That was the part of the sentence that got her, because her mother just said she did.
Right.
He just said, what is all this even? Why? Why did you eat? I don't know why your mother gave it. He's like, why are you even doing this? Why did your mother give this place? You don't need a restaurant to get a man. You are a perfectly pretty, lovely girl. What the hell are you two on about? Why are you having this whole thing with this hotel? Then which completely negates the entire premise that her mother told her. So of course she was ready to marry this guy. He'd come to save her. Jesus. Right.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Whew.
And you thought we were just up there badly. You didn't think we were like method actors and like knew the backstory of all this weird shit we were doing?
So you just mentioned that you have been rewatching them. What is that like for you, going back and seeing yourself at those ages and acting in those ways?
No, I always watch. Okay, there are actors and even friends of mine who say, "Oh my God, I can't watch myself. I cannot watch it." They won't watch anything. They won't watch the most recent thing they've done. And I'm like, nah, man, it's like playing football. You got to watch the game tape. You got to watch game tape, man. You gotta watch your stuff. It's just, that's how it is. But then I know there's musicians. They're like, no, I can't listen. You can't stand the sound of your own voice, and you're a singer. What is wrong with you? And people can't stand the sound of their own voice. I know people who can't leave like a message on their service or thing. Somebody has to leave a message for them because they can't just say, hi, you've reached Joe, but they can't stand the sound of their own voice. I'm like, God.
Wow.
So it's, and I'm not like that. I don't have that problem. In fact, I've had people hire me to leave their phone messages. Hello, you've reached Susan, because they could. They're like, would you do? I'll pay you. So it's a weird thing. I've always watched it. I always thought Nellie Olsen and I was funny as hell. Mrs. Olsen, I said, if I hadn't gotten it, I probably would have tuned into Little House. Went, oh, it's an episode with Nellie and Mrs. Olsen. Watch.
Okay.
What a character.
Because I was just talking to my friend about this. when I was reading the Little House on the Prairie series and when I was watching the TV show, I of course I love the Laura stories. I love, Mary and Carrie and Ma and Pa. I love those people. But truth be told, here's me at 7 years old on my bedroom floor, flipping through those yellow paperbacks, looking for all the Nellie Olsen parts. Why? Why was I doing that?
Of America in the 1930s, because Little House on the Prairie saved HarperCollins and saved publishing and created the entire children's literature as an industry.
Wow.
See, I know it was a thing. So it's the Great Depression. Everything is going to hell. Harper and Brothers, or whatever HarperCollins was called back then, was like having financial issues. Was getting pretty rough. What are we going to do? And all the major companies. It was the Great Depression. It was really bad. So everyone's freaking out. And in the middle of this, people are going back to the old ways, sort of as we did during the pandemic and things. Mm-hmm. And back in the 1800s when things were simpler. Well, when Laura was a kid in 1874, they were actually having a recession in the 1870s, hence why the Ingalls was so particularly poor. So she writes these books in the Great Depression. She tried to write an autobiography for grown-ups. It didn't work out. And she does the children's books. And Harper had just started a children's department. They didn't have a separate department. Wow. They started it. They gave it to this young woman who wasn't really experienced. And it was kind of like, it's children's literature. Give it to the new girl. Give it to the girl.
Boy, that's a cash cow now. Whoo!
Exactly. And the girl found Laura Ingalls Wilder, or her daughter Rose was pushing her, and went, "Hey, I got a thing called Little House in the Big Woods. What do you think?" And they're like, "Oh!" So of course they published it. It blew up. She didn't know it was going to be a series, but Little House in the Big, so I guess it's Little House in the Prairie, Little House in the, and starts cranking these things out. And that's why the timelines are all terrible, because she didn't realize it was going to have to write all other 9 books. And it was a smash and made HarperCollins rich and caused children's literature to be a cash cow. Like, oh my God, everybody's like, now we need a children's department. Oh my God, we can make so much money off this. And the woman who was like, the temp chick from the steno pool that they made do this was going, ha, 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 and had a whole career. So it changed everybody's life. And the book, so they've become wildly successful. And then she writes On the Banks of Plum Creek, and Nellie Olsen's introduced, and people went wild. They loved that book, hence why we picked it for the show. Said, okay, there's more characters, there's a town, someone to work with. So people go nuts. She starts writing the next book. Well, then they move and by the shores of Silver Lake, and she's getting mail. What happened to Nellie? Where's Nellie? Is there going to be more Nellie in the next book? And people are writing in, and they want more Nellie. And she's like, "Dad, yeah, I never liked her before. Now this, oh my God, this woman is still the bane of my existence." And she combined 3 people. So it's Nellie Owens, who did live in Walnut Grove, and Genevieve Masters and Stella Gilbert, who lived in DeSmet, South Dakota, and apparently were kind of difficult. And she just rolled them all into one, went, yeah, Nellie came back later in South Dakota and tried to steal Almanzo. And I'm just going to say it's all one person, because what am I going to do? And they would not shut up. And that's why Nellie keeps coming back in the later books. Because people
there's a thing that I think is just human nature between wanting to balance the good with the evil, right? I mean, that's what made Star Wars such a hit. It was good versus evil.
You gotta have a villain. How boring was it? Okay, Waltons.
How boring would the show have been?
We love the Waltons, but my family, we would tune in when the 2 crazy old biddies who made Father's Recipe, the bootleggers, were on. We're like, they're fun. Otherwise, basically, the villain in the Waltons was poverty, was the Great Depression. It was them versus the Great Depression. That was the villain. But that's not as much fun. There was nobody on the Waltons who was awful that they had to figure out what we're going to do about them every week. Yes, the 2 little old ladies were kind of naughty and what do they have to do? That was it. They were the funny people. Nobody was funny. It was a nice show, but it didn't have the high drama that we had going in Little House. And Michael liked humor. I mean, if you look back at Bonanza, that's where he first started. Very funny, had very funny episodes. And so he's like, no, you need to have ha ha ha. We're going to have episodes where people's babies die in a fire and Laura runs away and climbs a mountain. We're going to have horrible, sad episodes. Not every week. We got to have people want to be entertained. And so it's like, you bet your ass we're going to have hilarious Mrs. Olsen and Nellie, because hell, they demanded her in the books. They're going to demand her in the show. We're going to make this a thing.
That's right.
Right.
And
That's
then,
right.
as I like to say, I Fonzied the hell out of that one. It was sort of a war of escalation, kind of like, can you top this? Because I would get the script and go, oh, that's pretty bad, and then I would do it, and I'd go, woo-ha, and then the writers and everyone might go, oh wow, she did well. I guess she's willing to go there, and then the next thing I'd get would go, oh, I do what? And so it just like, yes, it became this thing until we finally had me going down a hill in a wheelchair. Yeah.
I watched that the other day.
Man.
It's
so good.
I've always watched the shows. I watched what was on it, and I've always seen the running joke was they'd have a marathon Thanksgiving, and I'd be cooking, and I'd put on the Twilight Zone marathon, and then I'd go to baste the turkey, and my friends would change the channel to the Little House Marathon. I'd be like, "Shut up! I can hear you. I know you changed the channel." But no, it's like weird home movies, because the really, really early ones for me and Melissa are teeny, are kind of hilarious because we both sound like we're in helium. I'm 12 and she's 10, and we're so tiny, and we were like playing younger. We both and Laura Ingalls, Nellie Olsen. I'm like, did we suck a helium balloon? Why do we sound like that? And then like 2 years later,
we sound like that actually.
But we are little mice. We're little screaming mice on that show for the first year and a half. It was crazy.
I think it's so fascinating that, from 7 years old, because I'm drawn to Lucy in that same way. I want to know, what are you? Yes. Give me the parts of that comic strip and the parts of Little House where there's just blatant bad behavior.
There has to be something. For Laura to be brave, somebody has to be scary. Yes. And for Carolyn to be patient, you have to have someone like Mrs. Olsen to test her patience. And then you see it. And people could identify, we talk about this all the time, why there's just power. Everyone has a Mrs. Olsen at their job. Everyone has a Nellie at their school. They know. I talk to people. My God, I had 2 people from Peru at my show last night at the Laurie Beachman. It was the Mother's Day show of the Confessions of Prairie Bitch. 2 different parties from Peru who came up for autographs. It's all over the world. And when I talk to people from Sri Lanka and Borneo and Bangladesh and go, bunch of pioneers and covered wagons, what does this even mean where you're from? And they're like, oh no, yeah, we all got a Mrs. Olsen at work. We all got a Nellie at school. It's a family. They got a whole bunch of kids. They're living in 2 rooms and don't have any money and don't know where the next meal's coming from. Wait, that's how the whole world's living. We can identify with that. Boom.
Yeah.
But you have to have the antagonist. You have to have a villain. Somebody has to, what do you got? Then it's very boring.
What is that like?
I have,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I have that with Peanuts.
Right.
People come up to me all the time and say, oh, I've worked with a Lucy. Oh, my mother was a Lucy. And I think it's why
she's incredible.
These 2 shows are still so beloved today, because everybody can identify with these characters, the good characters and the bad characters.
And people identify with certain characters. It's like, and I know some of the questions we're talking about, well, it's like who's your favorite character? Who'd you identify? The reality, okay, my favorite character when I was a little kid was Snoopy. Snoopy this, Snoopy that. I had Snoopy sheets and the Snoopy jammies and the Snoopy t-shirts. I had the stuff. Remember in the 60s, it came out with all these really great Snoopy toys. Snoopy was an astronaut. Snoopy did everything.
Yes.
Snoopy
Joe Cool.
Barbie. And Joe Cool. And I had Snoopy the astronaut and Snoopy the this and a giant Snoopy and a small. And I still have like a little Snoopy. I freaking love Snoopy. I love Snoopy. But the Snoopy dance. I can do the Snoopy dance. But I aspired to be like Snoopy because he was clearly so smart, and then he was so free in his expression and so brave. Take the Red Baron. I had the Peanuts cookbook, the little green Peanuts cookbook and stuff, and the Snoopy recipes were even the best. Snoopy the Snoopy, but I wanted to be brave and outrageous like Snoopy. I identified with Charlie Brown. I was the poor schmo who got bullied. And was shy and didn't know what to do as a kid. I was Charlie Brown, and I wanted to be Snoopy. But I adored Lucy. She's so awful. And I think if you're going to say who's the narcissist, Nellie or Lucy, more so Lucy, because Nellie didn't so much pretend to be helping people.
Oh, that is such a good point.
Nellie knew no, yes, this person doesn't like this and I'm being terrible and I don't care and I want what I want and get out of my way. So she was being terrible because I hate you and I'm getting revenge and I'm just a terrible person. But I mean, even when she tried to tell Laura the test answers. Oh, yes, there's no history. It's all vocabulary. She knew goddamn well it wasn't vocabulary, it was history. She did it on purpose so she would flunk the test because it was about a guy. Again, it was always about jealousy about a boy. It was Jason or Balmanzo or Johnny Johnson. It was always about a freaking boy. And so Nellie was very purposeful. It was about that. Lucy and the psychiatrist is in 5 cents.
Yes.
Really? Now, was she just doing that to screw with people because she was bored? Or did she have some fancy, I am my superior intellect and I am helping these poor, unfortunate souls?
I think it was a mix of both, actually. I mean, she did feel that she was superior to everybody,
Absolutely.
which is the basis of narcissism.
That's what I'm thinking. Is she put on a whole thing of trying to be helpful to people.
Yes.
And not like blatantly lying, like Nellie, who knew she was lying, but like, oh, no, I'm trying to help you. And I got that's much creepier. And the musical, as I say, oh my God, the musical. Did you ever see the musical? Come on, Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm. I did it when I auditioned for it when I was 3.
To play what?
To play Sally.
Okay, right. Okay, the baby. Okay.
But I was so much tinier than everybody else. The director was like, I can't. I know. It was my first Hollywood heartbreak.
Now, and then I love Peppermint Patty. I thought Peppermint Patty was a great character. And of course, when Peppermint Patty first started, I said, I'm old enough, I'm back to the strips here. I was like, yes, this is a great character. And it was part of the change where when it started, all the little girls wore little dresses and shoes. And then he's like, as time went on, he went, oh, put them in jeans and t-shirts. Nobody's wearing that. The fashions changed in Peanuts. They figured it out. But yeah, I love Peppermint Patty. That was definitely major. It reminded me of a friend of mine at school. I was like, yes, I know this person. This is great. So she was great, but I was more to Lucy did in the musical. There's the whole song where she's explaining stuff to Linus, the baby brother.
Those known facts.
Yeah, and it's all crap and it's all wrong. And she is insistent that this is all crazy. That's very narcissistic, where they can't take in real information. Everything they know is some weird person told them this once, usually someone that they looked up to as a narcissist that was narcissistic, that they could get something from. Well, so-and-so said it. And if you go, well, did you read a book or study it or look it up? No, but I know it's this. How freaking hell do you know it's that? Because so-and-so was wrong. No. And I had a couple of friends.
Yeah, they cannot be wrong.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of friends where they would spout, and I go, that's not true, right? And they go, what? No. Oh God, what was my friend? You can't run the dishwasher and the garbage disposal. You can't turn the garbage disposal on when the dishwasher's on. Like she thought we were all going to die or something. And I was like, no. Actually, I do that often. The stuff is coming out and saying, you turn the garbage disposal, clear the drain. And she was in horror when I threw the switch. I said, what is it you actually? She couldn't tell me what she thought was going to happen. And finally we figured it out. When she was a kid, they lived in a really old house with the circuit breakers and the fuses, that things were all on one circuit. And so her mother told her and her sisters, don't turn the garbage disposal on, because they're on the same circuit and you blow a fuse. Totally reasonable. But she didn't say that's why. She just don't, because I don't know, God would punish you. I don't know why. She didn't tell you, because you can't. You'll all die. The house will explode. I don't know. You can't turn this on. And she just went with that. At no point from age 6 or whatever to adulthood did she stop and ask anybody, is there something that happens when you run the garbage disposal and dishwasher that I should know about? Or ask her mother, why can't we run it? Or try in the 30 years from the time she'd been told it, try flip. Never. You cannot run the garbage disposal, the dishwasher.
Wow.
And when I went and turned it on, she screamed in horror. I was like, seriously. And as I said, we finally figured out, I was like, it was on the same circuit breaker. Of course she told you that. She wouldn't blow fuse. But you never even asked. And so the people are narcissistic, they have these things where they have dogma. There's no knowledge or learning. They have a hell of a time taking classes or learning any new things because all they know is a set list of things that they got from God knows where. And that's it. And it doesn't change. You're like,
Can we put up that slide on a narcissistic personality disorder? Because it's, I want to, for people that aren't familiar with what narcissism is, I think it's really important.
Entitlement. Yeah.
Yes. So it's defined in the DSM-5 as
way more narcissistic than Nellie. And Mrs. Olsen is more narcissistic than Nellie. Nellie has some of it. Need for admiration and grandiosity. Hell to the yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the arrogance and a lot of envy. But she does, she weirdly has some empathy. She would crack occasionally. And exploitiveness, unless she decided, Percival, the pig farmer, there were some people she really liked. And her arrogance was nothing in compared to her mother's. And the mother had total lack of empathy, could not even fathom that other people were offended by her behavior. It was much worse. But yet Lucy has that thing, because when she's doing the little known facts to Linus, and they're all garbage. They're all the snow. My favorite is the snow comes up out of the ground and the wind blows it around. And that's what it looks like snowing. Snow doesn't come down, it comes up. And the other characters are during the circle. No, it's water. There is snow. And she's like, nope, comes up out of the ground. And she sticks, and all of her stuff is absolute crap. And she is so, I am helping you by giving you this really important, correct information that the others are not giving you. And everyone is there telling him, oh my God, please don't listen to her. She's insane. And she's like, nope, snow comes up. And I'm like, yeah, there's your narcissist.
It's kind of a shame that we don't have the context of Lucy's parents to really, because we get your parents in
but
the
all
TV
we had
show
was wah, 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 wah. So we don't
exactly.
know how screwed up their parents were.
So we don't know, but we also do have, what is it, Linus and Rerun, her two brothers,
and so we brothers.
And Linus,
normal, except the blanket thing, he's got some issue because the blanket.
Right.
He does.
But he is so principled, and he's almost the antithesis of what Lucy's like. Right. And so
he's super nice. He's super empathetic to people. He's very well. And in the Christmas special, he's the one who's like, here's what Christmas is about, and gets up and does the whole Bible story and goes, there's a Christmas. And he's darling, but he can't be without his blanket. So what? And he's like a little old for that. And you kind of go, ooh, what's wrong?
He loses it without his blanket.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it almost makes me wonder, whereas maybe Nellie is a product of nurture, that narcissism was nurture because her mother nurtured that into her.
She got freaking nice when she married Percival. She just was like, what? She had the children. She was adorable with the twins. She was fine with the babies when she married.
Exactly.
And she was perfectly nice to that big farmer boy as well.
Right. So that's why I think that Nellie's more nurture, whereas Lucy, it's almost by nature.
She's the real thing. And then Nellie was creepy before, because she starts with the pig farmer. I think is the first one she loved, because you remember with Johnny Johnson Jason, that was very transactional. She was like, I can get you candy. I will bring you this or that. She wanted them because Laura wanted them. And it was totally, she didn't love Johnny Johnson or Jason. It was absolutely transactional envy. I must have this to have this weirdness.
Right.
And then by the time she got to the pig farmer, she's like, nah, I actually like you. And so she was starting to change. That's why we like Little House on the Prairie. Characters were allowed to grow and change.
Yes.
All the characters, people change. It was amazing. They never did that. They didn't do that.
One of the things that I find interesting is when they introduced Nancy. When I started thinking about Nancy is a malignant narcissist.
Yeah, she's really screwed up.
And she's really screwed up. But when you think about what she probably went through before she was adopted, she is so much further beyond what Nellie could have ever thought of as being mean or nasty.
Trauma. Now, they do allude to at one point that, yes, her parents did die, but they do allude to it because they're saying, she was abandoned in the street. And someone goes, no, what are you talking about? That's not why she was in the orphanage. And someone who knows well, yes, her parents did die tragically, but she was being cared for by an aunt who was a perfectly nice lady, and she couldn't handle her. She was completely impossible. And she was already bonkers when she got to the aunts and was spoiled rotten. She couldn't do anything with them. So they said, no, her family didn't really turn her out, and her parents simply died. But what age was she when they died? Because remember, we had James and Cassandra's parents in the buggy thing. So,
Right?
and they were,
Ugh,
and so how
kill
young
me.
when her parents died, and how tragic and awful was it? And in the 1800s, what possible psychological skills could her aunt have even had to deal with trauma of that level if she like saw her parents die at 8 or whatever, some horrible thing.
Yeah.
So she was just bonkers. And then of course she gets Mrs. Olsen, who even tells her up front that she's going to spoil her. It's like, yes, I will give you everything and I will do anything. And she's like, well, okay then. And so right up front with that. And yeah, she's willing because she's really genuinely dishonest, exploitive. I mean, the whole thing where they hate me, where when she smears the dirt on her dress and says she attacked me, and it's like, I mean, yeah, and well, that was the like, no, I was a bitch. She's a psychopath. That's
Well, and that
right.
is the difference between a malignant narcissist, is
truly
that they are a psychopath.
Well, and she knew that, Alison Bolson, the little tiny girl, she knew this. So I go back to do the episode Return of Nellie and I get to meet her in the scene when we're in the bed and I hold her nose while she's snoring. It's like, yeah, great stuff. And I met her and she was the same age I was when I started. And, her mother was a psychologist. So she was very educated about these things. And this kid she says to me, well, I watched it when I was little. I watched a show. She said, I wasn't going to copy you. I mean, that would just be weird. I was going to come in and do the same thing you did. She's a little actress, I'm not going to copy you. She said, I had to think of something different. So I figured, you were bitchy. I would do crazy. I said, nailed it, kid. Yeah, nailed it. You got it. She said, yeah, I'm going with it. She's just really profoundly disturbed. And this is what, and I went, yeah, well, that seems to be working. Yeah. And that's right. Now, even 50 years later, people will say, well, Nellie was bad, but you kind of like to hate her. They go, and Nancy was just evil, just like completely insane and evil. And nobody, that was just horrible. And they just hate her. They just don't. And I'm like, she's good.
Oh yeah. But to have that, to know that, and to know the difference at such a young age, that's amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is I understood what Nellie was doing and why she was doing it. And I was 12 and that's, can't hire a dum-dum to play Nellie. So the kids got to know what they're doing. And I knew where the jokes were. It's like, and she doesn't know how bad she is and is making a fool of herself. And it's like, I got it. And this kid watched me from birth till she got the show and went, oh, wow, I'm up for that. Oh, right. Well, I can't do the same thing. Duh.
Right.
And then went, well, what is she just mad as a hatter? Yeah.
Interesting. Alison, what is that like, having played such a person that we all just love to hate or love to dislike? Then you go out in public. Do people assume that you are the same way? Like, what? How does that translate to people?
Yeah, people are insane. People get really mad. They're still mad. 50 years later. I talk about this in my act. I go, people go into show business so that people will love them. Didn't quite work out. I was in the Christmas parade, Hollywood, Santa Claus Lane Hollywood Christmas parade, and McDonald's cup of orange soda to the face. I've had two little girls at an Easter fair came out, kicked me in the butt, knocked me down. But my favorite is just a few years ago, a woman came up to me at an autograph show, grown-up woman in this century, came up to me at an autograph show, and she didn't say good morning or I want an autograph or hello. She was like so angry, smoke was coming out of her ears, and she walks up to the table and goes, I forgive you, and walks out.
Wow.
And I was like, well, my husband thought this was hysterical. My husband's like, was that for everything? Is this the show or your whole life? Just been absolved for all your sins. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Wow.
For everything, I guess. He said, well, she's been holding that in for about 30, 40 years. Yeah. So, yeah, people absolutely. People say, well, did kids give you kids? Adults gave me a hard time. People are out of their minds when it comes to TV. And Little House is a very emotional show. It's very visceral, emotional. We hit a nerve. And so then when you have Nellie, they've already suspended all disbelief because they're like, oh, look at boy, Laura, the raccoon. And so they're already gone. They're vulnerable emotionally. And then I show up and instead of going, wow, that kid's really playing a hell of a villain. Said, what a boy, that kid must be good because that's really awful. They're just like, I hate her. She's scaring me through the television. And I've had people say, oh no, I was a little younger than you. And so Nellie was I was afraid of you. I had nightmares about you as a child.
Wow. Wow.
I did a play with a guy who's since been great friends, great guy, Andy Steinland, and we're doing a play. But when we met in rehearsal, he said, I have to tell you, I watch a show. And Nellie was this big, tall, blonde girl, and I was a little boy, and I was scared to death of you, and I had nightmares that Nellie else was going to come get me. So it's really weird that I'm meeting you now. I'm going to be doing this play with you, and it's kind of freaking me out. And so we had to like settle everything.
Wow.
And then I had to call his sister.
Because I would think actors would feel.
And as an actor, yeah, he would know.
Right? Like, because I remember watching the show, and yes, I could get into it and be like, wow, Nellie. But there was this other part of me that was the actor that would go, wow, is she having fun doing this or what? Right. Like, I never got to play the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he, as an actor, so he said, yeah, intellectually, as a grown-up and an actor, I'm going, well, of course it's not real. You say, he said, but a part of me is going, like I'm having palpitations and breathing, and I'm like, yeah, you'll be okay. So we had to, and then we became great friends. But I had to call his sister and leave a message on her voicemail saying that yes, brown eggs were still 3 cents less a dozen. It's like,
wow.
Melissa Gilbert and I party at Melissa Gilbert's house. We were 40 something, and she was having a party, and it was like a grown-up ladies slumber party. We had fancy pajamas and things, and we're making fondue and stuff and cocktails and having a great time. And this, as I said, 40-something lady comes, and at one point we're all laughing away, and this woman says, help me God, it's so good to see the two of you getting along.
What?
And Melissa immediately goes, oh my God, there's been a rumor of a feud when one of the tabloids must have said something. And she said, of course, was there something in the Inquirer? Did some tabloid say that we weren't getting along? And she said, well, no, I mean, when you were younger. And she said, well, are you different? And she's not getting it. It's like taking several minutes for us to even clue in how insane this is. And gradually it dawns on us, and I see like the light bulb go over Melissa's head. She goes, oh my God, you're talking about on the show. And this woman's like, well, yeah, it was like, on the show? It wasn't, what are you talking about? We've been friends since the first day we worked together. We hit it off immediately. Are you talking about we didn't get along as children acting on the show as other people? And this this grown woman did. She'd had it in her head. I was surprised that I was at Melissa's party and that we were making fondue together. And we were like, oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord. And I remember Melissa saying, you're in the industry. She worked at the studios, and her husband was a producer. And she was like, oh, yeah, work at Paramount.
Boy,
wow.
Speaks to the power of
storytelling. What I would love to see is the two of you reverse roles.
Oh, wouldn't that be so fun?
Well,
where Melissa's the crazy one.
And just awful, mean, bitchy,
and awful, and like trying to kill you.
Well, the Golden Girls thing, because when they first were doing it, Betty White and Rue McClanahan were going to have the different parts. They were going to have Betty White be like her Betty White character, Mary Tyler Moore, where she's the slutty one with the smart comebacks, and Rue be the sweet, dippy, innocent one like she had previously played. And they went, no way. So Rue's I got a hot date. And Betty White went, oh, yes, when we were at St. Olaf. And they switched it up. And it was
interesting.
Genius. It was like brilliant. So now Melissa and I used to pretend when we're running scenes, we would sometimes imitate each other. And we found this to be highly hilarious. Yeah. My mother said, and to my God, we put her another name. And I'd go, oh, Pa. And we would read each other's lines to each other while doing really vicious, horrible impersonations. Well, I found it because we were 12. And so we used to do so. We thought it was funny. But I think we probably, if somebody, just putting this out there, anybody's listening, if someone wrote a property where I was a lovely, sweet, dippy
Netflix,
person,
Lifetime,
I could totally do.
And I could be a friend. I'm just putting that out there.
Play the hard, tough, bitchy one. Give me a hard time. And I did. Well, I don't understand. We would probably. I would. I think she would jump at that. She would say, "No, that's a good bit." Oh, I think we would both do it.
That would be
awesome.
that would be hysterical.
Right?
Yes.
Come on, Netflix. Get it together.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Well, I have played nice people. That's why I do theater, because they let me play nice people. I played some really terrible people too, but I have actually played some nice people. But when I get a call, sometimes I get these crazy independent films and these websites, and they'll say, yeah, well, it's the villain again. I go, great. Is she really awful? And I'm always happy to do that. But when I did the show, Love Always Patsy Cline, where the one woman plays Carter Calvert of New York. It's incredible. She is Patsy Cline. She does 27 songs as Patsy Cline, but it's about when she meets this woman, Louise. It's based on a true story. She met this woman, Louise. They became great friends. They became pen pals, hence Love Always Patsy Cline. They were friends to the end. And they have this hilarious meeting in this nightclub, this bar in wherever the hell she's, Texas. It's hilarious. And Louise is kind of kooky, but it's just the nicest person, just loves Patsy Cline. And then this Patsy Cline, and I played Louise, who's just like, oh my God, she's just like the ultimate fangirl, and she's really sweet.
Yeah. Oh.
And so I played some lovely people. Nice.
What kind of character is more fun, though? The sweet character or the villain?
Sometimes if the sweet character is really spacey. I did last summer Bluefish Cove, which is the play about the lesbians at the beach house. And I oddly, because you think, with Nellie, she must have played Kitty, the author who's very grand. No, I played Rita. Who's Kitty's girlfriend. Is like, Kitty's a genius. Have you read her book? And Rita's just the sweetest thing and just trying to help everyone get along. And Rita's adorable, but she's also a little dingy. She'll go, I remember the time when you're like, whoa, where's she going? And so, yeah, she's slightly spacey and the nicest person in the entire world. And I played her on stage for weeks. It was great.
I love watching you switch characters. I'm just having so much fun over here.
Yeah, that's why I do. So no, I've played. Sometimes I love an iceberg, but when I get the script and it's a villain, I'm just like, yeah, I'll do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Why does it feel so good to be so bad?
Oh, it's just such a release. It's like all the negative emotions. I mean, people would ask my mother when I was doing the show, what's she like at home? She said, well, it's all out of her system. She's great. She comes home, takes a nap, and just it's like getting the toxins out, releasing all of that negative emotions. I was just like, la, 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 like Zen. I have really good blood pressure even now.
Did you want to be an actress, or did it come from your parents?
Did I which?
Did you want to be an actor, or did it come from your parents?
My whole family was in show business. My parents met in the theater. They ran the Totem Theater. My mother was Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I saw that.
And Gumby and Sweet Chili Purebred. And talk about voiceover. Hello. And Davy of Davy and Goliath. She's every bit. Oh my God, if you want to go way back. The first family album with Von Meter about the Kennedys. My mother was little Caroline and John. She's everybody. She's a huge. You get those books about voiceover stars. There's one called "The Magic Behind the Voices." It's like a whole compendium. Yeah. She has a whole chapter. She's one of those people. It's like, June Foray, Norma Macmillan, Dick Beals, it's Dawes Butler, Norma Macmillan. My mother is one of those people.
Wow.
So everyone. My uncle played the violin at the Hollywood Bowl. Everybody was working. Everybody we knew was on TV. I met people from TV all the time. We lived in Hollywood.
Right.
That was how things were. And so, yes, I was like, well, that's what you go do. And it's like, wait, I can get a job now. Like, hell yeah. And so
I just loved to do it. Nobody forced me. Nobody made me. The most my mother would ever say, if I was tired, she would say, you just need to sparkle for 5 minutes and then you'll be done.
I'm dying. I'm using that. Can I use that when I'm tired and I have a show? You just need to sparkle for 5 minutes. I'm going to do that.
But I've met so many child actors who just hated it and they were miserable.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, really, seriously, it's kind of weird. I went into it for the money. I heard that how many things can you get paid to do at 6? And I went, really? Right, the thing. I do that. So yeah, I thought it was great to have a job. And I did. I mean, by the time I was 10, I had like a little passbook savings account. But once I got Little House, I had the trust fund. God. And then I had my checks and, agent manager. But when I got my check, I had a check. My dad had me open a checking account when I was 13. And he had to co-sign checks, but he signed like 6 of them and go, off you go. I paid for my own races because my family could never have afforded those. And now, of course, I was on TV and I needed them. So I had massive orthodontics, and I'm like, so I did that, and I bought a car when I was 16. I moved out of the house at like 17 and a half, got an apartment. At 18, I bought a condominium. So I was learning financial literacy.
Right.
Had to go visit the accountant at tax time, and I would try to fall asleep, and they'd be like, wake up, and made me pay attention. So I actually had like some clue where my money was going. I knew where the money went. I knew where it all was. And they would sit down with checks going, this was your, this much went to this much. Okay. So I knew where all my money was, and I got my, but I was, writing checks, and I was in it for the money. And then I got Nellie Olsen. It was really enjoyable, as well. But growing up around working actors, it was like, oh, you got a job. It was a job.
Yeah, it was. It was a fun job.
It was great.
It was a job.
Absolutely. Like, yes, I have a job. Kids would talk about when I grow up, what do I want to be? When I'm in a job, and I go, I got a job now.
Right? Like,
wow.
It never occurred to me I'd do anything else.
And everyone did. I used to say until I was 7, I thought like everyone was on TV. We just took like Andy Warhol's, everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. I thought everybody took turns. Everyone was on television. Isn't everybody?
Right. Because in your world, everybody you knew was. I met the Labrador Boys long before they got Little House on the Prairie. I knew the Batemans.
My God, right?
And not like, we didn't hang out or anything, but I
Did
saw
you know
them
the
at
Shays? The 10,000 Shea brothers? That's my mother would call them. She said there's some lab where they're breeding the Shays. Every time it's like, there's another one. Wait, is that no, that was the older one. Wait, then which is this one? There's a new one. Was it Chris Shea, Eric Shea? I can't remember how many there are, but it seemed like every few years there was a new Shea that was exactly the same age. It was kind of like a science fiction thing, and they kind of looked like but yeah, the Shays. How many are there? We don't know.
Well, hey, we are getting down to the end of our hour, and I do not want to miss talking about your show. I'm so excited.
When is this on? Are we airing this? When are we airing this? Well, I just did in New York. I'm going to Nashville and Louisville.
Yes. So this is going to air before you get to Louisville. I have made sure of it.
I will be in Louisville. So Friday and Saturday night. I do Louisville Friday night, and I'm doing Nashville. But same place. So it's a marvelous place to play. So it's a big gay club, and it's crazy.
A gay club.
It's still a gay club. And I have a marvelous Veronica Electronica, a marvelous drag queen actually opening for me. Ms.
Fun.
Will be helping me. And Southern drag. She apparently does like a mini Pearl number. Crazy.
Well, Play does a drag brunch.
Yes.
Like all the time. And I have so many friends that have gone to it and say it's fabulous. It's so much fun.
I hear it's one of the best drag brunches around. And I just talked to, I mean, here in New York, just last night at the club, someone said, oh, no, when I was living in Nashville, I would play. So everyone was talking. So apparently Play Louisville and Nashville are just amazing. And I'm going to get to go to both of them in one weekend. And it's going to be crazy. And so the VIP tickets, like all sold out. I don't know. My shows have been selling out. I don't know how many tickets are left for them because like I was doing to play Chicago and that went like that. So I was like, no, there are no more tickets for Chicago. I'm like, what? No, it's sold out. And then I had friends going, can I come to your show? And I'm like, maybe. They were like, can you comp me? I go, comp you? Honey, there's no chairs. I don't know where to go put you. And so, we sold out Chicago, New York. Yeah. So it's like, she's like, I don't care where I just stick me in a corner. Chicago and New York sold out like really quickly. And we got a couple more days, Louisville, and the number of tickets that are selling you should get tickets now if you're thinking about this because
I have my tickets.
Yeah. And I did a show in LA Sierra Madre, and it was 2 weekends. It went on like 8 shows. And my friends were like, I'll wait till the last weekend. It's like, what do you mean it's sold out? And I can't come. It's like, my shows have been selling out. And it's
That's
the 50th
awesome.
anniversary of Little House. Everybody's kind of riled up. I don't know. They've been hearing about the other shows. They all tell each other. And so I don't know what's going to happen in Louisville, Nashville. So anyone who's out there going, well, I'll wait till the last minute. Maybe not, because that's what Chicago and New York, people could not get in.
I reached out to a group of women that I know, and I was like, hey, did you all know this was going on? And 8 of them bought tickets.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's going to be crazy. I talk about the show. I talk about being a crazy ex-child star. I talk about like people coming up and I forgive you. Talk about all the horrible things that happened to me because I was Nellie Olsen. And I talk about my dad managing Liberace and my mother being Casper the Friendly Ghost and how weird is all that. And I have pictures. I have pictures of me in Liberace when I was a child. Like, here I am. I go to see Liberace show when I was 8. And my parents said, don't say anything because no one must know that Liberace is gay. I said, I'm sorry, I'm 8. I know he's gay.
Right. Like, I was told the same thing for Barry Manilow.
Yeah, like, right. Like,
people don't know? Huh?
And so I have all these bonkers stories about crazy famous people I've met and crazy things that have happened to me and being Nellie Olsen and Little House on the Prairie. And then, of course, we have a question and answer segment where I literally have cards that say Ask Alison Anything. And we have those out with little pens. And then right before the show, we have someone, probably Veronica Electronica, or so, gather up the cards and bring them to me. And I don't like go through them. I just maybe flip through, go, oh, that one looks good. And then take them out on stage. And in the middle of the show, go, okay, we're going to answer questions. And just start reading them off live and answering them. We don't know
how fun.
But then, and the things people ask, oh my God. It's okay. Some of them are a little dirty. Sometimes some. It depends on the room. Sometimes they ask about the show, sometimes they ask about life, and sometimes they ask like completely disgusting. And I answer, I just go, fine, I'll answer.
Interesting.
I answer everything. It's hilarious. So it's kind of all encompassing, and there's video and there's pictures, and it's really fun. And everybody in Chicago and New York certainly liked it. So I think everyone in Louisville and Nashville will.
Now, do you have a book too?
I do. Now, here's the funny thing. It's like, oh, so it's a show based on the book. No, the show came before the book. I know who does this.
Oh,
I started doing the show years ago, and then like the show kind of escalated and had a video. And then it was years later where I actually a literary agent came to my show and said, is there a book to go with that show? And I went, I guess there could be. How many chapters do you need? Like 1. And then there was. I went, funny. 4? I have 4. Okay. And so then I had a book deal at HarperCollins. Yes. The people who published Little House.
Full circle. Wow, right there.
Right? The woman said, when we went to the meeting, she said, yes, we are the mothership. And they're like, we really want to say we got the Nellie Olsen book. We really want to say. And they did. So Confessions of a Prairie Bitch. How I survived.
Show the picture.
It's right there. It is.
How I survived Nellie Olsen and learned to love being hated. That's basically the story right there.
Amazing.
It is an autobiography. It talks about my life before Little House, during Little House, after Little House, everything that went wrong and went right. And it's okay. There's sad parts, but it has a happy ending. There's a happy ending. It's okay. If you're reading it and you're like going, wait, this is terrible. It's okay. There's a happy ending because terrible things happen, but there's a happy ending.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. It's on my book list.
People like it. It's very funny, or I'm told parts are very funny. Parts of it are like distressing. Other parts are funny. Sometimes the distressing parts are funny. What is it? Pain plus time equals comedy.
Right.
So it's a lot of people read it very quickly. They will say, "Oh, I just read it over 2 days straight." Also, the one you have to be careful if you're living with someone or married to someone, because the number of people read it in the middle of the night and woke up the husband, wife, the boyfriend, the girlfriend laughing and snorting loudly and like had to lock themselves in the bathroom. Yeah, so there's been issues.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to see your show, and I'm so glad that you're still out there and being you and being the funny self that you are. There's so many people in Hollywood that it just wrecks them.
I know, they hard and and then tomorrow I'm taping again. Because we always have a new thing. The podcast, I have the Alison Arngrim show where I interview celebrities, but we've got a show now, the 50 for 50 official Little House 50th anniversary podcast, 50 episodes for 50 years. And it's me. And yes, Dean Butler, Al Manzo. and fabulous Pamela Bob of New York do it. And the three of us riff on Little House, and we interview people. And tomorrow we're interviewing Melissa Gilbert. I'm just saying.
Yay!
Fun. We'll
when
have
is
to
that?
tune into
Is
that.
it live?
That's going to be no.
It's
We're very
recorded.
fancy. It's fancy and pre-recorded, but that's going to be coming up. But it's on all the fine podcast services near you, the 50/50 with T-Bow, and it's great. We just started doing it this year, and it's really picked up. People are going gaga for it, so we're like, woo. So we're doing that, and then I've been doing cooking videos on YouTube. It's like, what don't I do too many things.
That's great.
But
that's
the
great.
cooking
Keep yourself
videos,
busy.
like how I watch them. Like,
you're good.
You make it so fun and interesting, and I'm like, she's reading a cookbook. Like,
people are scared to cook. They're afraid. There's people who say, "Oh, I can't cook." They just haven't tried. They're afraid to try. And I'm like, look, here, this is not hard. You put the thing in the bowl, and you put the other thing in the bowl, and then you start, look, it's food. Yes, it's like, how easy can I make this? So we do that one. And then I read the books and stuff. And I have a movie coming out. Yes, I was just talking to my social media people about a thing we're doing. So I had these crazy independent films. There's a new one I just did called Buster Brooks. And can a poor farm boy make it in Hollywood overnight to become a star in time to save the family farm with the help of his pet chicken, Edgar? Yes, it's the silliest thing. He sent me the script and I went, well, I don't know. And then I was laughing so hard, like the milk was coming out of my nose. I was dying. And I said, yes, this is the silliest thing I've ever read. And the lead is this guy. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's from the show High School Musical.
Okay.
And he plays Buster, and he's such a lovely, intelligent young man. But Buster is the dumbest guy in the world.
What's it called again?
Buster Brooks.
Buster Brooks. I'll have to look for that.
And he is the dumbest cute farm boy ever to try to come to Hollywood and make it overnight with his chicken. And so it's good. That's kind of still. I have a brand new movie coming out, and it's going to be hysterical. So yeah.
Nice.
I love it. And then, we're going to get you and Melissa together for this Netflix movie.
Yeah, then we have to do that. And I will be, because my mother played a lot of the sweet parts. Like, she did the voiceover. And then when she was older, she did a lot of movies. And she would often play the, did the ditzy case. The Kraft mayonnaise commercials. Oh, yes, it's creamy. She was very spacey. And you remember this, Aunt Martha and Aunt Harriet. And it was a tough one. Oh, don't tell. So I have to tell everyone about the new Kraft mayonnaise. No, don't tell her. And my mother was the one going, it's creamy. Okay. What? She would do the ditzy Betty White kind of thing. And so, yes, I can do that. I can absolutely be the terribly sweet one. And then Melissa would be the bitchy one. And we're like, oh, let's do that. Let's produce that.
Do that. Thank you so much.
And of course, I love you
so much fun.
I love peanuts. So there you go. Hello.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. This has been a treat.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, boy. Okay. I'll bring my Snoopy doll.
Oh, good. All right. Signing off.
All right.